Have you been cut out of your inheritance by your parents' new spouse? 0207 862 2222 is the number. Do give us a ring. Writing in the Mail, journalist Adam Marlowe, not his real name, spoke about how he and his brother believe that they have been cut out of their late father's £1.5 million estate by their stepmother. The father stipulated that his second wife would inherit the house upon his death, but with the understanding that it would be passed on to his children in her will. He thinks that was a reckless move, and that's because his stepmother speedily cut off all contact when his father passed away. And when they inquired about whether she'd honour his wishes, he really didn't have anything to say on that matter at all. He suspects that that money will go to her two children, not him and his siblings. So have you had a very similar experience? Maybe you think an estate should always be left to the children rather than the partner to avoid this situation. But maybe if it's the family home that you're talking about, which it usually is, how on earth are you going to cope with that? Suzanne Shaw of Hearsay was a guest on this show, and she told me about what happened when her father passed away.
I went through it myself.
Did you?
I went through it, yeah. My dad passed away, very sadly. Divided family, he remarried. My brother got some inheritance, but it was only his business that he inherited. And then my stepmom got all of it, and it was meant to be split equally. She's now remarried. Everything's gone to her side of the family. I got nothing. Gosh. Out of any of it. So I know what it feels like.
Well, what does it feel like? Explain.
It's like a slap in the face. It's like you weren't valued in that setup. So yeah, I know what it feels like. It's hard. But what it causes is then divide, and we don't no longer speak to those people who were a big part of our life, and that's sad.
I mean, lots of people say, Anthea, it's like a slap in the face from beyond the grave.
Well, I can understand why she would think like that and feel that. But surely, if you are going to do that, and you can understand that if this is the family home and the stepmother is living there and she may be a little older, then you would have thought, and I know you've got somebody who knows what they're talking about as a solicitor coming on by this, but I would have thought that it would have been put in trust so that when she passed, then it all went, so that she couldn't change the will.
I'll bring Eve and JJ in, and then we'll talk to the solicitor about this. Eve, it can get complicated when there are stepchildren and step-parents and second marriages and all of that, can't it?
But you need a really smart lawyer now,
Absolutely.
and you're absolutely right. You should tie it up and you should discuss it. And I think the trouble is, because youth goes on so long, much longer than it did for our parents, people just don't make wills in time, or they don't think about it. And there are a lot of people, apparently there are people who go looking for people who've got no one to leave wills. I mean, it's got a special name, sort of will.
Well, there's heir hunters.
Heir hunting, yes. I mean, it's an important thing, and I think we all wait
too long to do it. I think lots of people have real superstitious feelings about wills.
Yes.
They think, gosh, I'll make my will, I'll get run over by a bus that afternoon, so I don't fancy it. I can see why people don't like to think about it, because it is a kind of horrible thing to confront.
Yes.
But also,
you have to.
Lots of people labour under the misapprehension, JJ, that wills are for rich people. That if you don't have a lot of money, what's the point making a will? You haven't really got much. But actually, they apply to absolutely everyone, because everyone's got something, and it's up to you to decide what you do with it, even if it's a couple of vases and a canteen of cutlery. It's still yours. No, but it is. It's still yours, even if it's a second-hand old car. As my dad would say, an old jalopy. It's still up to you to decide who you leave it to.
So I'm going through this now. As you know, I'm getting married in 3 weeks.
I would like to meet your wife.
I've met her. She's lovely.
She has. So she'll become stepmom to my son, but naively, or maybe I'm being naive, she will be in my will. She'll have everything. And if I pass, I trust that she will look after my son. And that's just
okay. Well, that's probably a terrible idea. I think I'm sure that's all wrong. So let's speak to someone who knows. On the line, joining us is Solicitor Patrick Rusk. Patrick, hello. Thank you very much. JJ said he's excited. He's about to get married, and he has a son from a previous relationship. And he says, well, what he'll do is leave everything to his new wife and trust that when she passes away, she will take care of his son. I've already said I think that's an appalling idea. What do you think?
There's a great deal of trust involved in a marriage, and JJ, massive congratulations on the wedding, but from a legal perspective, you might want to consider actually putting in provisions for your children to make sure that actually they're looked after if you do pass away.
All right, now let's talk about the provisions. You say this word provisions as if it's an obvious thing. It isn't at all. So lots of people are in and they're in a situation whereby their parent gets married to someone else, and there's a kind of fuzzy belief that some kind of, in inverted commas, provision has been made, that when that person, the person that they got married to, passes away, they will be looked after and get what is meant to be their fair and due share. But how do you make sure that that happens? What do you have to put in a will to make it cast iron?
Well, there's a few things you can do, but the one that will probably apply here is putting something in trust. One of your guests mentioned that earlier about the article we saw in the Daily Mail, where there was the family home and there was the promise that was going to be left to the children. Whereas in fact, actually, then the stepmother seems to have gone off with it, not made any contact with the children whatsoever. So it's possible to put something in place called a trust, where the stepmom has the right to live in that house for the rest of her lifetime, and then after that, the children will inherit, and that still forms part of, in this case, the dad's will. But that means the stepmom doesn't really have the chance to go and take that house for herself and then give that to her own children, for example.
And how complicated or expensive or difficult is it to put one of those provisions, those trusts, in your will?
It depends on the solicitor you're talking to. I mean, I think you can reasonably expect to pay a few £100s for a will, but I think it's so important if you're thinking about the future of your children and your family, paying a few £100s now to make sure that these sorts of disputes don't go ahead in future. I mean, especially in this case where the estate was worth £1.5 million, but it doesn't have to be £1.5 million. It could be just a family home, but making sure that your children are protected, I think, is a safe investment.
Well, so do I. Thank you very much indeed for the advice, Patrick. JJ, take note, for goodness sake. Let's go to Susanna in Southampton. Susanna, this happened in your family. It was absolutely ghastly, as it always is. Tell me how it happened.
My mother died. She married a second time and she died. Before she died, she said, half the price of the house will come to you when her husband died, and a bit of cash. And she said this in front of her second husband and my daughter. When he passed away, he'd made some provision that nothing came to me whatsoever. Everything went to his other stepchildren and his sister. And we lost about £60,000 that was supposed to be help my daughter's education, which was about 7 years old at the time.
What a shame.
So we had absolutely we tried so many solicitors, but they wanted a lot of money up front, which I didn't have. Tried 6 or 7, but I couldn't find anyone that was willing to fight for me in court.
That sounds absolutely dreadful. And let me ask you something. Are we deducing from this that your mother didn't actually make a will? She just kind of trusted her husband to do this?
No, she did make a will. He kept that from me. He said she didn't make one. Oh. But by accident, the solicitor sent me a copy of her will. And she said, I trust him to make everything right when I die and he dies. And he just sat there listening to it all. And he knew what he was going to do, take the lot.
How horrible. And just saying, you saw the will, you weren't meant to, but you did. And she hadn't stipulated in it, my daughter Susanna gets. She hadn't.
No.
Oh, what a shame.
She should have put something in like security and tenure, and that then makes that when they get married again, that it doesn't override what she's left in her will.
Oh, dear.
Say to me. So she said she trusted him, and I thought, well, at the time, he didn't have any reason to, but after he died, we found out.
Really sorry to hear that, Susanna. I know it's incredibly painful. And it, of course, it's the money, but it's also the feeling of being kind of excluded and left out of your parents'
But I'd wonder why, lawyers are asking for an awful lot of money, because wills are fairly straightforward.
Yes, they shouldn't be asking for much money up front, should they?
But they should have advised it, and they should have tidied that up. And I think that's terrible, especially for the granddaughter.
Let's go to May in West Lothian. May, a very similar thing happened to you, it seems, unfortunately.
Yes, it did.
How did it happen? What happened?
Well, my mother died. Oh, she was quite young when she died. And eventually my father remarried again. Yeah. But he was, the lady that he married, he was her first husband. Mm. So however, he ended up in a home, and I was told to look after my father. even though they were married. And it wasn't until after he died, she phoned up and asked for some of the money. I says, I don't have the money. You see, I had been giving them some money every month to live on, even though I knew he hadn't paid money. So, however, the long and the short of it was, my father got nothing, and her family got the lot.
Oh, really? Yes, her family got the lot. I mean, this is the kind of punchline that you do really keep hearing, and this is why it really, really is important to discuss it. You have to discuss it, don't you?
It's also the beginning of divorce, isn't it? It's, you know, I mean, people didn't get divorced in this way 50, 60 years ago, 60, maybe 70 years ago. It's now very common.
Yeah, it's very common for people to have second or even third marriages or more.
Yes.
Absolutely. Let's go to Antonia in Pembrokeshire. Antonia, was it similar for you, similar kind of thing?
Yes, what happened was when my mum remarried, my stepfather died. When he died, everything went to his adopted son, who was estranged. So he owned my mother's grave, which he took down the headstone to.
Oh, that's horrible. That's horrible.
Yeah, I know. Well, and I went on Christmas, the day she died, and I noticed it had gone.
Oh, my God.
And I rang up and I found out legally he could remove it. He owns the body. It's legal. It's true. He now owns it. He could do whatever he wants to it. There was also £30,000 in her bank. My stepdad never touched it after he died. He just wouldn't spend it. He left it. He went to the bank, emptied the account, and took everything. That was my grandparents, what my mum had, all my mum's furniture, everything. And when I rang the bank, they said, no, he can legally do it. And on Facebook, there was posts, you know, out enjoying and spending the money. And there was nothing legally I could do, even though he was no blood relative to my mum or my stepdad. He took the lot.
But hang on, was he named in the will? Is that why?
No, he didn't have a will.
Well, how did that happen then?
Because he's classed as automatically his son because he adopted him.
Oh, I see.
So when he made no will, it automatically went to his adopted son. Even though my mum had premium bonds in her name when she was born, when she was 17 years old, they went to him. Everything that the house that was in half her name, the whole house went to him. Everything, because everything, even though my stepdad never claimed it or took a name off the mortgage, when she died, it automatically from the grave, her body, everything went to him.
God, it really hurts, doesn't it? It's so painful.
It's not even the money, is it? This
it's partly the money, but
it's the feeling.
Horrible
that he could do that.
Horrible.
He'll be in hell, don't worry.
What a nasty thing. I'm so sorry. That's really, really vindictive and unnecessary and just brutal. Oh. That's horrible. I'm so sorry. Let's go to Susan in Rutland. Hi, Susan. Similar thing for you as well?
Oh, yes.
What happened?
What happened when I was 9, my mother died.
Sorry, gosh.
And we lived in a village in Derbyshire then. And a year later, my dad remarried someone who was not nice to me at all. And I didn't even know where my mum was buried or cremated or anything until I was in my 20s. Also, the stepmother, I found out, was a receptionist in the hospital where my mum was ill. My mum did come home to die at home the same night as she came home. And the stepmother has now got a Cotswold farmhouse and 2 rented properties, including one of my granddad's, my dad's dad.
Gosh.
And I've left home at 16. Well, left home, pushed out through lack of love. Dad was always busy, and her stepmother was always bossy. And I've just been left without to survive since I was 16.
God, you've had it so tough, you poor thing. You really are. You're the Cinderella in the Cinderella story, you poor thing. Has life panned out for you in any other ways? Are you okay now? What's happened since?
Well, I got a cottage through a grant when they were trying to split a housing estate up in a troubled area.
Good.
Because I got married, but it only lasted a year because I found out where he was playing around. And at the time, the council wouldn't help you. They said, go home. How? There was nobody
you've had a rough ride of it, Susan. You really have. I'm so sorry. And it's really nice of you to phone. I really appreciate speaking to you. And thank you for being so incredibly honest about a difficult time that began when she was only 9. And when you hear about wicked stepmothers of fairy tale, this is the real thing. And Anthea, of course, the absolute living opposite, gets on so well with her stepchildren now.
And I always think they are my family. And, you know, when I do go, anything I have will be theirs.
Well, they're your beautiful children, aren't they? Let's face it. But my gosh, that's so sad, isn't it? So sad. Let's go to Kim in Northamptonshire. Kim, oh my gosh. So Kim is a carer, so has this unique perspective on this kind of thing happening. Kim, have you seen this happen a lot?
Yes, definitely. I'm a carer, and in one street, 3 people I cared in one street, and this neighbour ripped them all off, apart from one of them. The daughter found out and she quickly stepped in. But the other 2, where they all passed away, you know, like with all different things, cancer and other things, but I could not believe it. I really couldn't believe it. She left letters for this one, this bloke who lived in the same street. He really ripped them 3 off. He told him he had a business, he owned his own house and everything, and he left him trustee to sort the will out. And because one of the old lady, her family was over America, so he paid take everything, sort the will out and everything. Even her brother, who was dying of cancer, terminal cancer, stepped in. He wouldn't even let him in the house. That,
isn't it? That sounds like almost a professional con man. Kim, what a horrible story.
Yeah,
what a thing for you to observe. That's a horrible story. Thank you very much indeed for calling. Really appreciate hearing from you.